Okay, hello and welcome to Symetrix webinar on recording, playback, and media manager. Two of the new features in Composer 8.0, both playback and media manager. Welcome all. So today I'm going to do two things. I'm going to give a brief recap on the current recording feature that was introduced in Composer 7.3 and give a more in-depth view on the newest features in Composer 8.0, media playback and the media manager, as well as playlist management. So without further ado, let's get into the meat of it. So what I'd like to do here, let's see here. All right, we're going to jump right into Composer 8.0. And as you can see here, go ahead and drop my screen. Right now I have the recording module and playback module open at the same time in Composer 8.0. I'm currently doing some test recording. These are just random noises, no real audio is being played at the moment. And I am also playing some songs, as you can see over here in the playback module. So, but let's talk about the system requirements. First and foremost, these features, the recording feature, the playback feature, and media management, are all only available on the Radius NX series. Today I'm just using the 4x4, but that includes the 12x8 as well. On the back of our units, you'll notice that we have the USB host ports. Again, only available on the Radius NX series. That is how you attach your USB drive or USB memory in order to save and play back from that drive. Now, technically, we have tested with several USB drives. Some are better than others. USB is not all created equal. This model that you see here in my site file, that is the one we have tested with very, very frequently and have had zero problems with. So we highly suggest in critical applications to get the SanDisk UltraFit USB 3.1 flash drive, the G46, in various sizes. And then I can go ahead and copy that into chat so people will have this information. And I will do that right now. Okay. Now, moving forward, let's go ahead and jump right back into the site view. So this is just a simple site right now. I'm just doing two things. I'm randomly generating test tones as well as getting a feed from my USB card, onboard card. And then we'll jump right down to the recording module here. So when you open up your site file and you drop in a Radius NX 4x4 or 12x8, you'll notice that you have a section over here in the toolkit under recording and playback. You have both recording modules and playback modules. Right now we're talking about the recording module. So you can, when you drop in, you have a choice between 1 through 8 channels to place. In this case, I'll go ahead and just do 1. You can name it at this point. And you can also separate between, have a separate control button for recording and stop, or a single recording and stop button. And I'll show you what that looks like. Right now, I'm gonna drop a single channel with separate, and you'll notice I just went offline because I dropped something new into my site file. So go ahead and open that up, and I have 2 buttons. So 1 for stop, 1 for record. Let's go back here, drop in a second one, and then select single record stop button. Open that up, and we have a single button. Why the difference? It's for different purposes. So you have, as you can see, the 2 modules are slightly different with the control nodes. This one, of course, has the single channel input because it's a single channel recording module, as well as this one. But we have the, on the left, the separate stop and record nodes for control, and on the right, the single stop record node. So the difference would be what you're going to be using to control it. In this case, that would be a latching button where you would go between two states, and in this one you would utilize something like a momentary switch or two momentary switches to go back and forth between these two, or any other kind of control that would manage that functionality. Okay, so, but you can also not just one, so you can have up to 8 channels of recording, and in any configuration you want. If you want 8 single channel modules, you can do that. If you want a single 8 channel module, you can do that as well. Or 2 4 channel modules. What you cannot do is have more than 8 total. So if I were to bring in, say, 2 8 channel modules, just for the sake of argument, and I try to compile and or just go online, it'll throw an error. It won't allow me to do so. All right, now let's jump right into the module itself. As you can see, you have individual volume and mute controls for each channel. That's going directly into the USB, so think of that as the output volume or output gain for that channel. But most importantly, down below is the controls that you have. So as you can see, that my current status, we have the stopped button, which right now we're offline, so that would go between stopped and recording, the auto start button, the record length and available time fields, status, folder, and file prefix. What all these means, of course, is this: when we go online, let me go ahead and just delete that. I already have a 8-channel recording module in my design. Go online and I'll show you exactly what these fields do and those buttons do as well. Okay, so to begin, obviously the button here for the recording, and right now it was stopped and I just hit recording, you'll notice that it will flash, giving you that visible representation of the recording as well as the LED flashing, which you can add a controller number to and add to your control screens if you want. Auto start is the feature, like it will only do this feature during a power cycle or when the unit is being pushed to. Auto start is simply that. It will begin recording if it's currently in an off state with a power cycle or when you push. So, and then we have here record length and available time. Of course, these differ on the USB that you use, the size of the USB. The one I'm using right now is very small. It's only 12 gigs. So it's not showing how much available time that I have there. Is only 3 hours at the current formatting that I have for my file. And you'll see that will change depending on the size of the USB drive. Status, this window is going to give you various status events. We'll just basically let you know it's read-only, and we'll let you know, okay, what's happening? Are you connected? Are you recording? What are you recording to? As you can see here, I'm recording to my file name format currently, and there's other various things that it will state. And then the folder here and file prefix, these are user set. So right now I'm recording that file into that folder on the USB drive at that file prefix, which is text. And we'll get to that in a second with the recording options. So as you can see, currently we only support WAV format. As you can see, we can either do one multi-channel file, which is effectively one file per channel, or we can do the separate file per channel, which is multiple. So if there's an 8-channel recording module, it will separate into 8 different files, as opposed to the first, which is, it's just one multi-wave file, which means my 8-channel module is recording into one file with 8 channels, of course. but you can change that whenever you like. Now, you can also change the sample rate and bit width. So by default, it's 48K by 16, but of course, the sample rate you can get as low as 12K. So as well as 8-bit as well. So bit depth, you can go up to 24-bit and then down to 8-bit. Now, this will dynamically change the amount of time that you have left, of course. So if I hit OK, yes, I do. So as you can see, my available time increased from 3 hours to 30 hours. But of course, I decreased the formatting. So it's a trade-off or whatever you need for that job. So I'm just going to stick with 4816. Yes. And then hit my recording again. So back to the record options. Now, you have file name choices. So as you can see here, here's my preview of the file name pattern configured. Right now I have everything enabled, and it's a fairly long file name. Of course, the prefix is going to be what I set on the previous page, which is test in this case, and then the date, the hour and minute, and the sequence. So getting to the meat of this, you can change the start date format or how it appears in the file. As you can see, as I'm selecting these new formats, it changes the view, or the preview, I should say, or I can completely disable that and we'll be left with the other choices. Or I can deselect all of them and only have the prefix that I selected earlier, but that gets a little bit confusing. So might want to have more than one enabled at one time. So again, the hour and minute is in a 24-hour format. And then the sequence, what that means is when you start the recording process, the sequence, the enumerator will increase as the recordings progress or as they stop and then restart. Now, you can also set to where that suffix in this case will end. Will it restart, like sequence 1, it'll be sequence 2, sequence 3, sequence 4. Whether it will revert back to sequence 1, never, which means it will be 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., etc., or on a power cycle, which means you power cycle the unit, it reverts to sequence 1 from that point onward, or daily on a 24-hour schedule, which means every day it's a new sequence. But everything else, if you have the start time, it'll be enumerated also with that. So moving on to duration. We do have a file length maximum selection. At this juncture, it's 5 minutes by default. You can change that to whatever you want. I generally just keep it at 5 minutes, but of course, depending on what kind of an environment or install, you can choose up to 24 hours or whatever you want at that point. So you can choose to continuously record once started or not, which means that if this is deselected, once it gets that maximum file length, it will stop recording, period. If you want it to continue and then add to the sequence, have this continuously record once started enabled. And then the sync rollover time is a little confusing, but what it really means, it's a multiple of the file length maximum that you've selected. If this is deselected, these times can get variable. They don't obviously follow a perfect file length maximum, so it can get out of sync. With this selected, they are always at 5 minute sync values, or multiple values, I should say. Moving on, auto delete feature. So by default is none, but you can choose between whether you want in folder or in folder with matching prefix. And again, this is the prefix that you've chosen on the previous page in the file and folder area on the module itself. Now you can choose whether their file age, there's no limit whatsoever, which means it will delete whatever files. Oh, excuse me, one second. A little bit of a hiccup here. Okay, good, we're good. Anyway, so it'll either have no limit, or you can go from up to 1 year down to as little as 1 day file age, which means that it won't delete anything older or younger than this. Okay, and of course you have a size limit. Do you want to set to the limit? It's like, okay, if they're less than this, it will delete. Okay, or you can just go all the way up to 200 gigabytes, or simply when full, which means as soon as the USB drive is full, it will start deleting based on these previous selections. All right, then lastly, the options are security. So this is for FTP access. So you can get into the USB drive remotely and access the files. We'll get more into that a little bit later, right after we talk about the playback feature, but this is where you set the username and password. Now this username and password is used for both playback and recording. So this record options area is very important. So generally speaking, if you set it here, it will also affect the playback. So moving on, okay. All right, so the other thing that you can do is all these controls, I should say, everything that you see right here can be exported to your control screens and controlled from SimView. Okay, where did it open? Please do not crash. All right, so it's a little bit of a hiccup here. Okay. All right, let me go ahead and restart. Okay, let me go back online. So I'm just gonna do this offline. So again, so I'm gonna go to the recording. Here we go. Here are all the options in the control screen that we can export. As you can see, you can have individual control of the volume and mute again. As you can see, you have the record options, which you can open. But the other thing that should be noted is that you can limit the recording options on the control screens or the SimView to where it does not show the security. So the person opening cannot change those security credentials to get into FTP. And this is done in, let's see, hold on a second. I'm getting an indication. We're seeing blue. 1 second. Something has gone wrong. 1 second. Let me change this. How about now? Okay, we should be good. All right, got it. All right, moving back. Okay, as I said, here's the control screen. You have access to all of the controls that we previously had available in the module itself. And as I stated, you can limit the record options so the user can actually change all of this information, like the WAV files, format, file name, blah, everything else, with the exception of security. So that'll be done in the properties window over here. Let's go back over here, record options, whoops. Let's see, where are we? Go to edit mode, record, allow SimView record options. So right now it is false, which means when they open that record options in SimView, it will not show them those credentials. But again, we'll move on to that later. Now the recording, as I said, you can have it laid out in any fashion that you want, anywhere from 8 modules of 1 to 1 module of 8 channels, like I've done. Okay, I'm getting chat. It's on 50% of the time. 1 second. Okay, this is barely watchable. All right, what is happening? Currently just gray. I am showing on my screen that everybody is seeing Composer. Let me show this one more time. Okay, wait. Okay, who's still having problems viewing Composer? You should be seeing the design view of my Composer 8 design. Brent, you can't see? Okay, you see it? Okay. All right, I'll apologize. I don't know what's happening. It's showing me in the interface that everyone can see what I'm doing, but okay. All right, I'm just going to move on, and if there's any more trouble, just give me a shout in chat. But that was just an overview of the recording feature. I really want to now get into the new features of Composer 8 with the screen. I will reconnect. Okay. Rob, you're going to reconnect? Okay, good. Now I'm going to get right into the playback module. Again, the playback module is found in the same location under recording and playback, and with the same restrictions, or I wouldn't say restrictions, but the configuration choices. So you have 1 through 8 channels for playback. Second. All right. Okay, anyway, I'm gonna move forward. We'll just, there's some questions, I'm gonna answer those at the end of the webinar. So again, you can choose between 1 through 8. You can change the name. You can choose whether you have separate momentary playback or stop buttons or a single playback button as before with the recording module. And again, it'll pop up with, here, I'll bring this down here, and you can see that I have 1 with the 2 controls, stop and play separated, and this one with a single control. So same exact kind of configurability. Well, of course, you can only have up to 8 at a time. So if I try to compile with 2 8-channel modules, it'll throw an error. All right, now let me go back on. Whoops, I can't go back online. I gotta delete that first. See, will not let you go online. Okay. Okay, Rob, you're good to go? Good, that's good to hear. Okay. All right, as soon as we're back online, I'll jump in the playback module. Okay, here we go. All right, it's similar in some ways to the recording module with its various differences. So of course, on the top, we have our shuttle controls. Of course, like any other playback device that you're familiar with, we have the play and the stop. In this case, we have the 2 buttons, and you have the rewind and fast forward buttons, which you can press and hold for rewinding purposes or fast forwarding purposes. Now, when you rewind and fast forward, it starts off slowly, like in roughly 5-second increments, and gradually ramps up the speed of rewind and fast forward until you get to the end or the beginning of the file. In some cases, depending on how you have it configured, if you have it paused, it will stop at the end of the travel. If it's not paused, it will continue to the next file if you're fast forwarding. When you're rewinding, I should say, it simply, when you're holding it, it stops at the beginning of the file. So anyway, and of course, I mentioned this, the pause button. The pause button is exactly that, very familiar controls, very user-friendly, nothing confusing about it. And we do have the option here, as we had in the recording module, the auto start feature. Again, same concept. When you do a power cycle or push the file live or online, it will automatically start playing whatever you have set down below. Now, a loop, of course, is that. You're going to loop either files or playlists. So, which means they're going to continuously play. In some cases, let's just say if you have an announcement that you want to continuously play over and over the same announcement, you would just simply play that one, or have that one file selected in a folder, have it loop, have it auto start, and ad nauseum, this same file will continuously play. Okay, so down below, we have some read-only fields. So right now, we have the status field, which is exactly the same as the recording module. Well, I don't want to say exactly. It's going to give you information regarding the playback module, regarding the status of the USB, if you're online, if the media has been disconnected, and so forth. And then above that, we have the time of the current file. So in this case, I have an Aerosmith song, Adam's Apple, if anybody's familiar with Aerosmith. So if I start playing it, I can go ahead and pause, but I can also go, you know what, I want to listen to, let's see, 2 minutes and 30 seconds into this file, and I can do that by directly entering in the time. So I can fast forward instantly to any time that I'm aware of. Okay. The remaining field is read only, so you can only do the time entry in the time field to get to that currently selected file's time signature. Okay, now moving downwards, you also notice that we have 3 folders, or 3 fields. One says root, the other folder, and then file. You're drilling down on your USB device on where your recordings or playback list or media will be. So you select the root, whatever the root you want to be. Now you could be direct. In this case, I can go ahead and select the root to be the ultimate folder that I want, which means that if I go to folder, it's already in that folder location, so it doesn't give me any choices, and hit OK. And then down here to file, it'll give me the file list currently in that. Why is it not showing? One second, let me go back up here a little bit. Let's do this. This. There we go. Yeah, I was selecting the wrong thing there. So anyway, as you can see, I have access now to any of the files available. So of course, this is all one time. So I can go ahead and file away another song here. But if I don't want to mess around with just finding individual files, which are all WAV, by the way, I did state earlier that recording-wise, we only support WAV. Well, it's the same with playback. You may only utilize or play back WAV files currently. That's not to say for the future, but I don't know that, to be honest. Now let's get into the playlist section. So this is the meat and potatoes of it, where you can create playlists, and we'll get into that in a minute. That's in the Media Manager for the creation. But right now, I'm just going to give a brief work through, and then we'll get more into that in a second. So I can select previously created playlists and then set them to either shuffle. Now the shuffle feature is literally that. So it takes the group, like, so let's just say for the sake of argument, you have 20 files in your playlists. It will take that 20, randomize those 20 in a list, and then once it gets to the end of that, it reshuffles. So it is a true shuffle feature. So it's not going to continuously shuffle, which sometimes. One second, I just noticed something in chat. Okay, thank you. Chris Painter answering a question. Appreciate that, Chris. He's my hero. So, and you also have the ability to repeat. So this repeat feature is just repeating that playlist. This is not the same as loop, it's repeating the playlist. And then you can go all the way to the beginning of the playlist with this button, or select moving forward and backward through the playlist with these forward and back buttons. But that's just list view. That's not actual file playing. You're just moving back and forth between the files themselves, not the actual file. That's what these control at top are for. All right, and now we also have the 2 buttons on this playback module. I didn't mention this in the recording module because I knew I was going to talk about it on this module. The recording module and the playback module have both these buttons available, the Media Manager and Eject Media buttons. The eject media button is exactly what you think it is. As soon as you press that button, it ejects or unmounts your USB device. However, it will not automatically unmount. You have to go and physically remove the USB and plug it back in to remount. So make sure, if you don't want that to happen, do not export this button to a user control or a remote location, because if they press that button and unmount that USB, it will not automatically unmount or remount. You have to upload or do a power cycle for that matter. You could do a physical power cycle or a reboot, but sometimes that's not desired to do a power cycle or a reboot. You have to physically unmount the device or remove the device and reattach it in order to get it to remount. So don't do that. So again, all of these controls, with a few exceptions, are exportable to SimView. The recording module, most of them really do transfer to SimView. The control screens that are included in T5. Rob, it does not have an "Are you sure?" It just does it immediately, as you can see. So I just ejected the media and it stopped playing immediately. There's no warning. It's instantaneous. Now, if you'll forgive me, I need to get out of our sound booth and reattach the USB drive. So 1 second, please. I'm gonna put myself on mute. All right, I'm back. That wasn't too bad, but yeah, as I stated, I mean, unless you want to physically do the reboot, power cycle, or just get up and disconnect and reconnect, it's not a good idea to give that access to a end user because they will use it. They go, "Hey, what's this button do?" Well, you just found out. All right, so moving on, let's take a look at what does get transferred. So as you can see, within SimView, we can basically do everything. Now, SimView for PC, you have access to all of these. So let's take a look. Let's export. PC, yes. Okay. I have a problem with this computer. My mic keeps muting and unmuting. Is everyone experiencing that with me? No. Okay. So I'm going to move forward. So as I was stating, you can export almost every control to SimView for PC. However, on the T5 and the control server, things are a little bit different. You don't have access to everything. And one of the things you don't have access to is these root buttons. So these buttons, which give you the ability to locate your files, do not function on the T, or do not export to the T5. And you cannot enter in the information directly as you can previously. So it depends. We have a list in the help file of what is exported and what is not exported for the recording feature and the playback modules when you're exporting to SimView. But not all are available. But I won't get into that right now. Again, that is in the help file. Now, I want to go backwards just a slight bit and talk about FTP access. So with either the recording and playback media that you have currently on your USB, you can access these remotely. You can open up whatever you choose to use. In my case, I almost always use FileZilla. Okay, what is my IP address though? Okay, there we go. And I can't remember what I set my password to. Generally speaking, I use the ultra secure admin password. Let's see, nope, wrong module. Let's go to recording. And yes, I did that. Admin password. Oh, goodness. All right. So let's do this. 164, 168, 164. Name. Whoops, forgot username and password. Password. Unless I did not do the password correctly, which I don't know why, but I always mistype the word password. All right, hold on. This is embarrassing. 1 second. Okay, sure it is in fact password. All right, so I may be having issues with the network. I cannot connect right now, but that's fine. But that ability is open to you. Okay. And then you have direct access where you can pull the files off directly from the drive, as opposed to going to the location, pulling the drive, connecting to your computer, pulling from the computer, taking out of your computer. You know where I'm going with this. The FTP feature is extremely handy. And it's not just the recordings folder you can get into. You have direct access to those folders, both folders, playback and recording. So what I'd like to do is now go on to the Media Manager. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up. I should already, here we go. So when you open up the Media Manager, when you press that button, it will open via your default browser. In my case, it's, I believe I'm running Edge at this point. Don't hate me. And you're presented with this view. This is going to be your main view. So you're going to have your folders, your default folders, which are playlists and recordings, and of course your system volume information, which is every USB is going to show that. So as you can see, I can drill down into recordings and 1 second. All right, what are you doing? You are being, let's see here. All right, I don't think I mounted my device correctly, so 1 second. I'm going to do this one more time. All right, I apologize for that. If anybody can hear me, I just needed to remount my USB. And of course, my radius is many feet away. I'm in a recording booth. So let's see, are we ready? It's showing us offline. Let's go back online. Okay. All right. That error is fine. I have several units on this same site ID. Okay. Let's go back here and go to Playback and then the recording module. Or I'm sorry, the Media Manager. Okay. Admin password, of course. Ultra secure. There we go. All right, so I just needed to remount the device. So as you can see here, okay, let me just stop for a second instead of drilling down the recordings. but we have the two main areas. So we have the file area, or page I should say, and the playlist page. So very few differences between the two. It's a very simple interface, which makes it very easy to navigate. So just for the sake of brevity, I'm going to go directly into our recordings. I'm going to show you. So my USB test, I did the audio testing. As you can see, this is what has been recorded. So I have the several sequences here that when I was starting and stopping, as you can tell, and the sizes of the file that are currently recording. Now, I can select these and I can go ahead and either, I can download these directly, which is this button right here. I can edit them, but you're editing, really, you're just sending them to a new folder if you like, just for management purposes. I can delete the files, which may or may not be what you need to do, but we do give that option to you. And the other thing is you can actually play the selected audio. Now, when you play the selected audio, it's not going through Composer. This is streaming through your web browser. So you need to be mindful of that. So you have to have your audio card or your headset selected for your computer audio as opposed to Composer or your Radius DSP. And then you can add these to a playlist. So let's go ahead and create a new playlist and just call it test, because why not? Okay. Then I'm going to go back a bit, and then I'm going to go to my other folders. These are going to be my folders that I'm using, and not for recording, for playback. As I mentioned earlier, I had the Aerosmith songs, and forgive me if I'm an Aerosmith fanatic. I don't really apologize too much for that though. So these are all my files, which I can go ahead and stream if I want to, but I don't. So hopefully that wasn't too loud, or I don't think everybody heard that, so I'm hopeful that wasn't the case. But I can change the orientation. Now, Rob, he asked a question. Do the WAV files include metadata, for example, in the info chunk to provide data like which input info we're recording? No, they do not. Not within the media manager. So the media manager is a simple interface. So it's just for playing management of the files themselves, but it doesn't give you access to the metadata. And you can select an individual file, like as I said, and you can edit the file name, what's currently on your USB. And then, let's see here. There's really not much to it. It's very simplistic, as I told you. As you can see, these will indicate which folder you're in. So it's basically for folder navigation. Right now, if I want to go back to my root, I just hit the root button, which is just USB /, and here I am back at my root, and I can go back to my recordings, or I can go back to my playlists. Now, you'll notice if I click on the playlist folder, it'll automatically select the playlist area, which I can do the management here. So it's slightly different. And by slightly different is the file management here is you're not managing the actual files, you're managing your actual placement in the playlist. So in this case, if you go up here to delete selected item, you're not deleting the file, you're deleting the instance in the playlist. If you're in the file area and you go and you hit delete, that will delete that file. So be mindful of that. So when you're in the playlist area, delete is simply remove from that playlist. So I can select this on top. Let's take a look at my playlist. I want to bring this guy down below this song. Okay. And then this guy, I want to put right at the bottom. Let's see here. Do this one at the bottom as well. Okay, so that guy's at the bottom. They're both at the bottom now. And then let's just say I want to select multiple. So this button right here with the up and down arrow, I should say, when you hit this and then you click on the next item, it selects from the beginning or your previous selection to your next selection for management purposes. So in this case, I can remove these from the playlist, which I will do. And then now they're no longer part of the playlist. But if we go back, let's see, go to files, recordings, motions, these were not removed from my file list. So I just wanted to be clear on that. So it's very, very simple, very, very simple. And you can either press that button within the recording and playback modules, or you can type this address directly. So this address is obviously going to be my host DSP address, the 192.168.100.64/media manager. And you will, as long as you're on the same network with your computer and therefore web browser, you will go directly to the media manager for that management purposes. Really not much more to it. It's very, very user-friendly, as I would say. So, and then of course, you also have the options of going to the other features of our DSP. You can go to home, which you can get access to the Arc web. You can also get your diagnostics page. That's completely separate. But once you log out, because you have the ability to log out here, you can't actually get back into the media manager without logging back in. So you can actually get to the other features of the DSP without having to log in, but media manager itself, you need to log in yet again once you've logged out. All right. Well, that's the meat of it. So if there are any questions, I'm going to hold the floor for a few seconds. Do the WAV files? Oh, I already answered that question. So any questions? Auto export from USB to central database. What do you mean? There's no auto exporting unless your file management or your FTP program does that for you, which I'm not aware of, but not auto export from USB to central database. Could you clarify, please, Adam? And again, Adam's question was simply auto export from USB to central database. Okay, I had one about recording. Okay, so Brent, his question is, I had one about recording. Can you create new files while recording? What do you mean create new files? So when you're recording, it's recording onto the USB. When you say create new files, hold on a second. Okay, going back to recording, I have a need to create new audio file recording is engaged. Please clarify. So what do you mean? So while you're recording, which means the recording module is currently engaged. And when you say create a new file. Oh, okay. So tapping in the recording button while recording. Well, if you do that, it's going to stop recording. So the recording module, now if you need to do that, that's the reason why we give you the ability to have multiple modules. So if in one single module, and that's one thing I didn't touch on, is the recording module is individualized. So if you have 8 one-channel recording modules, the settings for each are independent. Well, not all settings, but like the file and folder path settings are individualized for those modules. So if you want to, quote unquote, start another recording while one module is recording, yes, you can do that, but not the same module. So new file, new timestamp, you would need another module, not the same module. And in that case, yeah, you would stop. If we were talking about one 8-channel module, you would stop it, and then you would stop the recording, change your settings to a different folder or a different sequence, whatever you would like, and then start recording again, all within the same module. But Brent, if you want to do that while recording, start another file, you would need another module, if that answers your question. Rob, so yeah, metadata. So if that's the case, that's what the file, we have the embedded, I don't want to say it's embedded metadata, but the file name itself will be the indicated what room, because you can actually set that file prefix, as I stated earlier. So if you need a room number for, just depending on what recording is happening, that would be set in the file prefix, or the folder for that matter, because each module has a different setting for each folder location and file prefix. So you would manage it that way. Metadata, on the other hand, is just the typical metadata when you're doing recording, which would be, and Rob, that would be the reason why you would need, yeah, that's one of the reasons why we have the ability to change the prefix. So that would be the room data. So instead of depending on the metadata. Okay, did I miss any questions? Okay, if there's no more questions, I'd like to wrap this up. And I'd like to say thank you to everyone for watching this webinar, and I really appreciate it. However, if you have any questions at all, if you have any more questions about the recording feature, the playback feature, the media manager, or anything regarding Composer 8.0, please feel free to give us a call. And again, I don't think I stated this at the beginning. My name is Stu Patterson. I am a technical sales engineer here at Symetrix, and you can give me a call, or you can call any one of our technical sales engineers, 425-778-7728, extension 5. And with that, thank you very, very much for this, and have a pleasant day. Thank you.